Hello students, in this lecture we discuss on Ecosystem and Biodiversity Services Part 1. Ecosystem and Biodiversity Services means the different benefits they given from environment to the human being or the organisms they are present on the earth. So which one are the different services given from ecosystem and the biodiversity? The benefits derived from ecosystem. Benefits, that is the important constituent sources they gives to the mankind from ecosystem. Then products of ecosystem processes. In an ecosystem they gives a different number of products, for example nutrient, food material, and also the other important constituent they are given from the ecosystem and they plays important role. Then strong positive link between ecosystem process and the biodiversity, because the normal ecosystem they gives the ecological balance, that means to gives a sustainable development upon a biodiversity. So they will necessary the link between ecosystem process and the biodiversity is strongly positive one. Then loss of biodiversity strongly linked to reduce ecosystem services. That means when the loss of biodiversity is occur, that time 100% the ecosystem given to a different the benefits they are also affected and reduce the balance of an environment one. Then threats to human well-being one. When any damage or the hazardous is given from the biodiversity by human being or human being to the biodiversity one. So they also ultimately affect the services in between ecosystem and the biodiversity one. Now what is ecosystem service? According to Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, the ecosystem service was defined as the benefits people obtain from ecosystem, both natural and managed one. That means benefits are given from a ecosystem or the environment are nothing but a ecosystem services one. These services may be categorized as provisional services, regulative services, cultural or supportive services, and it also referred as supporting processes they given from biodiversity into the ecosystem. The summer services they are well-being or the direct impact given on a human being one, but some of them they are indirectly supporting to the human being, in which majorly they are provisional, regulating, and the cultural services one. The ecosystem and the biodiversity services are contribute and make to human well-being one, because of all the necessary things sources they are given human being from only the environment, or we simply says that the biodiversity one. It includes provision of food and fibers, regulation of the biosphere and the cultural services one, because this is the necessary things they are required for to normal life or the well-being of human being one. Ecosystem services are the goods and the services that biodiversity provides one. They includes soil formation, the provision of food and fiber, air quality, and climate regulation, as well as the regulation of water supply and quality, and the cultural and the aesthetic value of a certain plant and species. Also they given the different services from an ecosystem. Then the biodiversity or the ecosystem also provides some research activity relative to a new field, though there will be a nowadays comes and address to the challenge of governing complex and interdependent environmental and the societal system. So it is main aim given to the ecosystem services as a research one. Understanding the ecosystem services requires a strong foundation in ecology, which describes the principle and the interaction of organisms and the environment. That is, the interaction between Biotic and the abiotic component with an environment is also well known for to provide the different types of services by a biodiversity to the human being one. There are the different steps for ecosystem and the biodiversity services one, in which the first one, identification of ecosystem services providers. So which one are the different providers, the sources one. So the species and population that provides a specific ecosystem services and characterization of their functional role and the relationship. The determination of community structure. The species or the organisms that are present in a group. So their interaction with an environment is also important for to give providing the services by a biodiversity or the ecosystem. Assessment of a key environmental factors influencing the provision of a services one. That is the abiotic factor they are majorly given to impact. So that time we properly assess and provide the services to the mankind. Measurement of the spatial and the temporal scales and their services operate on. So these are the different steps. Biodiversity related to the ecosystem services one. Because of in a biodiversity they gives a maintaining the different ecosystems. So the many key ecosystem services provided by biodiversity, in which the first one the such as nutrient cycling one, the nutrient cycle for autotrophic individual up to the last topmost carnivores or the consumers one, they should be a required one. Then also the pest regulation, because the diseases and the hazardous impact they will be caused by the different number of organisms they are present in a ecosystem, and they also gives the damage to the ecosystem services into the biodiversity. Pollination, the normal pollination is also gives food in the form of the particular plant or the reservoirs one. So the pollination is also necessary, it also provided by the biodiversity one. Sustain agricultural productivity, because day by day increasing the population they requires a large number of food, and the different number of products they are gained or the given from the agriculture one or the agricultural land one. So it's simply promoting the health functioning of an ecosystem is a majorly important in a between biodiversity related to the ecosystem services one. What is the role of biodiversity in the ecosystem service approach one? Simply, biological diversity exists at a different level, such as the level of ecosystem, species and gene ecosystem. Then this biodiversity plays a specific role in the existence and long-term maintenance of ecosystem functions, which are keys to the provision of an ecosystem services. Then after, due to the complex way of interaction, the concrete, that is relationship between biodiversity and ecosystem service delivery still remains unknown for most ecosystem services, because the interaction is not given to a proper interconnecting, and the different number of services or the goods they are provided from biodiversity into the ecosystem one. For those that are known, relationships are highly variable and may be positive, negative, or they are a non-linear one. So simply the ecosystem and biodiversity relationship, they simply we here conclude in the form of a wide range of conditions that a process through which natural ecosystem and the species that are a part of them help sustain and fulfill human life. So we all keep in our mind what are the possible benefits supplied to human society by a natural ecosystems one. So these are the services. Why biodiversity important for ecosystem services one? Because simply the diverse nature or the variety of biological things they boost ecosystem productivity, where each species, no matter how small they will be, has an important role to play a well-being of an ecosystem. So the biodiversity important for ecosystem services. For example, a large number of plant species they are present in an environment. So the plant species also important for an ecosystem one. So means a greater variety of crops they are found in a environment. So the greater species diversity ensures natural sustainability for all forms of life. Then there are different types of ecosystem and biodiversity services depending upon they should be a provides benefit in different level one. So which one are those? The first one are nothing but provisioning services. What is the provisioning services? The provision of a food, fresh water, fuel, fiber, and other goods. That is the provisional things they given from a environment, or simply we say that a biodiversity. This is nothing but a provisioning services one. Then second one, regulating services. The biodiversity they will be a maintained by some climatic factors in an ecosystem. So which one are those? Climate, water, and disease regulation, as well as a pollination one. Then some are supporting services that are present in the biodiversity. For example, the soil and the soil given to the soil formation from a different activities, as well as the nutrient cycling is also given support to the biodiversity one. Cultural services such as the educational, aesthetic, and the cultural heritage values, as well as the recreation and the tourism is also important to give the different services in an ecosystem one. So all the necessary things, those they will be given, the services provided by ecosystem and the biodiversity, in which there are different roles in the ecosystem service approach. Then biodiversity related to the ecosystem services. The study of ecosystem services include the different steps one. So these all the aspects or the concepts they are studied in this entire topic one. Then now we comes at the last stage are nothing but different questions they should be asked on the topics one. For a definition, what is the ecosystem service? Then provision services, a regulating service. This will be asked for, explain or the define one. Then the for short note questions, what is the ecosystem and the biodiversity services? Then second question, role of biodiversity in the ecosystem service approach. So all these contents they should be studied in this entire topic one. Now the third one question, multiple choice question. Simply the first one question is dot dot services are the goods and the services that biodiversity provides. Answer is ecosystem one, because the ecosystem service are the goods and the services that biodiversity provides. Second MCQs, biodiversity boost dot dot productivity. The options are forest, ecosystem, and soil. The answer is ecosystem. Biodiversity boost ecosystem productivity. And the next one question, biodiversity plays a specific dot dot in the existence and long-term maintenance of ecosystem functions, which are keys to the provision of ecosystem services. The options are aspect, role, and impact. The answer is role. That is, biodiversity plays a specific role in the existence and long-term maintenance of ecosystem functions, which are keys to provision of ecosystem services. So with respect to biodiversity and the ecosystem services, all the content those will be studied in this lesson.